Hi everybody, welcome to Eating Peace this week. I've gotten some great questions lately and some comments about feeling hopeless when it comes to ending compulsion, relaxing, stopping a busy mind that feels out of control, and therefore your behaviors become out of control as well. But with food and eating, really powerful to just get really simple today. I want to share a few things with you about how to work with a sense of complete hopelessness. You know, everyone's had this in their lives, not just people with eating woes and troubles or any other kind of compulsive addictive process or something that feels overwhelming. So not just that, everybody sometimes feels part of the human life, I guess, the condition here, what we experience from time to time is a sense of hopelessness. I can't go on, that kind of hopelessness. I feel so depressed. I've had it. I'm so sick of my job. I'm so sick of this place. I'm so tired of it raining all the time. That's what's going on in Seattle right now. I joke and I say that, and it's sort of light, but the devastating feeling of real depression and low energy and lack of hopefulness about even solving this eating imbalance, or whatever it is that's reaching for compulsion, can be incredibly devastating, very difficult, really hard. I mean, the feeling in the body itself of just depression and hopelessness, despair, is such a sinking, horrible feeling, almost like there's a dread and you don't even know what the dread is. Sometimes you do. Sometimes something's happened and you're kind of digesting it and working with it for a long time, but it's as if you're in a swamp or worse, and you want to crawl into bed with the covers over your head. Happens to everybody, but really difficult if you notice it coming up around something like the behavior of eating, the experience of eating, off balance, which can feel just so frustrating. Well, here's what I like to suggest if somebody's been experiencing a lot of hopelessness and despair and lack of any sort of change. The huge burden of thinking with the mind of how far you need to go. That's number one. I need to go so far to get from here, this hopeless, despairing place, to something more exciting, hopeful, interesting, a little bit of life in it. Willingness to get out of bed and move around, whether that's just emotionally or symbolically. It feels like the gap between that is like as wide as the Grand Canyon, or maybe endless. I'm looking out on the ocean and there is no other side. That alone in itself can be something to deeply question. What I like to notice is that this is just an image in the mind. It is impossible, says the mind, to relax or find peace today. Maybe in the future, next year I'd be okay. Or maybe when I lost 100 pounds. Or maybe when I lost 5 pounds. Maybe when I quit binging and purging for a few days. Maybe then I'd feel more peaceful. And to get from here to that peaceful spot, to actually achieve that or accomplish that, that's going to be practically impossible. That's going to take so much work. I have no idea what to do. I don't know. Impossible. Like Chicken Little running around, screaming, or the Tasmanian devil spinning around, So that is a thought. It's a belief. It is a belief that the mind seems to conjure up, if you have felt like something's going to be really difficult in the past, it will multiply it by 100 about what's necessary and what's required to achieve peace in the future. What if that wasn't true? What if it was possible today, right now, to just get a little sampling of peace, maybe even a lot of a sampling of peace? What if you did not have to do anything, like the dictator mind, the one that's like a total controller in charge of the universe? You have to do A, B, and C in order to find peace. What if that's not true? Who would you be without that story today? I notice that I sometimes get that depressive sinking, dreaded, I got to get out of here. I'm never, just too much work or something about anything, even a project, when I think it's just too big. It's so big. It isn't possible to do one little tiny step today and then maybe one more tomorrow. And we all know those trite little sayings about the journey of 1,000 steps or 100 years or something starts with one step, but it's true. And you don't need to even do one whole step. If you just sat still, even if you're lying in bed, even if you feel like you don't really know what to do next, if you actually did nothing rather than something, eating compulsively is doing something. You are active. You have to reach your hand, you have to go find the food, and you have to open up the refrigerator doors, and you have to open up the cupboard. You might even have to get in your car and go to the store, or take a walk somewhere and go to the store. You have to acquire some money and have your wallet with you. There's a lot of activity involved in eating compulsively, movement, compulsive movement. So what if you need to move the body, that's okay. You could just jump around a little, walk around, pace in your room, but what if you actually did nothing? Hold very, very still. There is something that's actually a practice in many, many traditions for hundreds of years. That's an advice that wise people give to other humans who are suffering, and that is hold still. Meditate. Meditation. What is meditation? Meditating. You're usually fairly still. Something is fairly still. There is movement or walking meditation where the body is slowly, kind of effortlessly moving along. But you're just letting your mind do what it does without believing it, without believing that any of that is actually true. So just consider, if you feel so exhausted that you want to lie in bed, maybe there's something wonderful about lying in bed and resting and not getting up and engaging in some kind of compulsive behavior or something that's sort of frantic. Can you live your life and move about your day with the sole focus being, I'm meditating, I'm relaxing while I live my day? Really, I only feel that depressive, heavy weight on my shoulders feeling when I think a lot has to happen, practically an impossible amount, in condensed into 1 hour, and I must stay on task and keep working, that kind of thing. But who would you be without that story? Who would I be without that story? Who would you be without that thought, that belief? What if nothing's required? Especially when it comes to food and eating. What if doing nothing is more, the peaceful, might be difficult, and nothing's required? You just choose to be still, The world is not going to come to a screeching halt because you aren't doing X, Y, and Z that are on the list, right? Sometimes that eating feeling comes out of thinking that you have a giant list of things that you need to do. Laundry, project, report, all the stuff you are supposed to be doing at your job and your life with your kids and your, et cetera, whatever you've got going in your world. What if you just let's just set the list down for a day, for an hour. World is not going to end if you don't do it. And then see what you choose to do instead of what you think you have to do. So turning that thought around, I do not have to take action in any way if I don't want to, and just feel what it feels like to give yourself the permission to be open and relaxed. I find that when I'm gentle that way, it's like that old story of the sun and the wind are having an argument, saying who will get the person down there. They're looking down at you. We're going to get her to take her overcoat off, and they have a competition. And so the wind goes first, the mighty wind, and is blowing so hard this person is like crunched down in a little ball on the ground, holding on tight like this. No coat is coming off. And then, of course, the sun gets to try and attempt taking the coat off and just warms and warms and warms, just being itself. And the person down below, you, take your coat off. Relax. Nothing's required. So you see if you can bring that in some kind of balance. I know that it's odd because heavy depression often leads to actually doing nothing. I mean, not even being willing or able somehow to go up and get the mail is extreme depression. You know, the mail's in the mailbox outside. Who cares? I don't want it. But that's just like a fighting against the things you think you should be doing. What if there is no should that you should be doing? You could turn that around, you know. Then I might choose to actually just take one tiny step, one little half step, one little tiptoe forward. Because there is something very beautiful and exciting and thrilling that almost every human has about movement. I mean, we just automatically do it when we're babies, right? There's no, you should be walking now. Just something in the growth of the human being that we're inside of that body begins to walk, and it just grows and moves and expands and expands and expands. So there's something kind of beautifully natural about this widening and expanding, and here's another adventure, and who knows what's going to happen. But just to do it gently, without the weight of the world upon your shoulders. You do not have to be done completely forever with all compulsive thinking before you can take a step out of your front door. It's okay if you fall down and bruise yourself and then you get back up again. Just keep going. No big deal. No big deal. You have a binge, you overeat that day, you break the food plan that you know works for you. You know, you have a quote-unquote mistake, which we're not going to call, maybe an adjustment of some kind. You get to look and see. No big deal. Continue on. You know, light, easy. And then see what naturally comes to mind about that sense of whatever is required to do next, which is nothing, but whatever your mind is suggesting might be fun to do next. And then move towards that a little bit, because that's sort of, at least what my experience is, the most natural flow, a natural kind of ease and flow. So that is the main key point about working with depression, that if you notice you're depressed, maybe there are too many things that you think in your mind that you think you should be doing, and there's a rebellion going on. All right? Very, very simple in a way. So just slow down, meditate, see what the silence might want to be telling you, relax, question your thinking. Any heavy thought, I should be doing XYZ, turn it around. I should not be. Find advantages for not doing the things you think you should be doing. See what those advantages are, because then you have a more equal playing field about what's possible for you, what your options are. And just let go of results. There is no waiting to be peaceful tomorrow or next week or next year after you lose weight and after you calm down with this whole food thing. Peace can be present here, even if though your mind gets a little frantic and seems to never stop talking. Like a nutcase that it is, right? Peace is here anyway. Just see what kind of maybe silence or space, you know, right in this room, here I am in my kitchen, is around you, even if your mind is talking. There's peace here. Peace is here for you, for anyone. So let me know how it goes. All right. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.